welcome back to Atypical Talk. This is a podcast where we have conversations that illuminate the intersection of faith, culture, and the common spaces of our humanity. I'm Abby.
I'm Joel.
And I'm Allison.
So our first question today is, what's something good that has happened to you and stuck with you? We're talking about karma later. I don't know if I believe in karma, but
we'll get into it.
Yeah.
We'll find out.
Something that somebody did for you, or something that fell in your lap, something that stuck with you. Right?
Yeah. So my memory is terrible. Okay, this kind of stuff. So when you were like something that stuck with you, I'm like, that's not very.
What I have for dinner last night?
But there was a couple in a church that we had previously attended, and when we were super young, parents, we had little kids. There was an older couple in our church who, looking back now, I'm like, oh, they really weren't that old, but but they gifted us their vacation points. They had like a timeshare type thing, and so we could take our girls to Florida. They like gifted us their points, and I was like, who does this? That is wild. It was so kind. So shout out to Liz and Larry Serby, who probably don't listen to the podcast. But,
you don't know. They're listening to every episode.
I thought they were old then. They're a little older now.
Look at you covering your tracks.
Because that was 20 years ago, maybe, something like that. But
that's awesome.
Yeah, it was awesome.
What about you, Abby?
So when my family was living in Lansing, Michigan, my dad was a pastor up there, and the church he was pastoring at closed down. And so he was driving bus and stuff to make money, and we had to move out of the parsonage we were living in and ended up living in this house. It was really small, 3 bedrooms. There's 11 of us.
Oh my gosh, I'm doing the math in my head when you said 3 bedrooms.
Yeah, so we're all squeezed in there, making it work. And something happened that we had to move out. And so we were trying to figure out, where do we go now? And there was this huge house. It might not have been that big, but it felt huge at the time.
As a kid.
That someone offered to rent my parents for $300 a month.
Whoa.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
and
a gift.
It was, they were like, we just want to do something nice for someone. And so it was just incredible that we were able to,
And then you're like, why
there.
did we ever move?
Yeah.
Why did we ever move from that house? Right?
No, but the same situation happened where we had to move out of there. And then eventually my dad started working in Ohio and has a pastor's job again. So it worked out. It was all God through all of it, and some amazing people along the way. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Love that.
Your guys' stories are like sweet and like, compassionate. Mine's going to sound so dumb. No, it was, I think it was circa 2013 where my wife and I, and people that know me well know that I love concerts and I love the Dave Matthews Band. I've seen them an ungodly amount of times. I've seen them a few shows. And I always go to their 2 shows they play at Deer Creek Music Center. It's still Deer Creek.
Yes.
It's not Ruoff Home Mortgage Music Center to me. In Noblesville. I would go to both nights every summer. And there was one night we were in the lawn. Megan and I had just been married a few years, no kids, and somebody that we knew from Kokomo walked past us in the lawn, and they handed us 2 tickets, and they were VIP second row tickets to the show.
Yeah,
and this was like 3 or 4 songs into the show. So my first thought was, you losers, not
they're
checking out
leaving?
this show? It's like the 3rd song.
What
What's
the
your
heck?
problem? But what we did was Megan and I went down for like 3 songs, and then we would come back to the lawn and we'd let some other people we were with go down for a couple songs. And so it was a little bit of a pay it forward kind of thing to where everybody got this experience. We were used to just being in the lawn far away to be like real close. And I remember it was so fun, like, and everybody coming back is like nobody had ever or will ever pay for tickets like that. And so to like have that experience, it was like a little pay it forward, and it was just really fun, and I'll never forget it.
I love that.
That was fun.
So cool. Sweet.
Well, our first article is a CNN article titled, "Do Bad People Have It Coming? Study finds most karma believers think so." When it comes to karma, most people believe the universe is their own personal cheerleader, but an exacting judge for everyone else. In a research study about karma, 59% of the participants wrote about themselves being rewarded for their good deeds. In their stories about others, 92% chronicled how misfortune befell cheating partners, indebted friends, bullies, and lousy coworkers. Judith Jung, an adjunct associate professor of psychology at Emory University, said she believes this study biases are common to most people. They can be a form of defense originating from early childhood experiences and the need to feel secure. I work with patients a lot on developing compassion and a sense of shared humanity, recognizing that we are all a mixture of good and bad, Jung said. It's not about influencing religion, it's about a patient's basic ethics. So what did you think about this article? What do you think about karma? Do you think it's, God rewarding or punishing us? What is your whole view on this?
Oh, so many thoughts. So interesting. And I feel like it's more layered the older I get than I think it was 15 years ago for me.
I don't think it's black and white.
I don't believe that there's some kind of like cosmic ruler or scales of like, you do this, karma rewards you, or you do something bad, karma will come and get you. I definitely don't think that is compatible with my worldview as a Christ follower at all. A couple of things I do find is really interesting, though, is how it's people always, you want grace and assume the best from ourselves, and you want other people to see the best for you, and you want to receive grace. So it's interesting when you look at the article, you see that like most people see the universe on their side, but for people they don't like that or have harmed them, they think it's an exacting judge for them. And I think that's an interesting thing in human nature, because I think we turn towards like, well, why doesn't everybody understand my intentions? And we don't ever even think about other people's intentions, and we want revenge and we want bad things to fall on them. So it's just an interesting thing when you even take a step back there. And so, I don't live my life by there's some kind of cosmic judge that's going to come and get me. I do think that there are systems and ways that when you do things that are right, life works more. And if you do things, I think, out of generosity and kindness, and you work hard and you do what you say you're going to do, I think generally there's a lot of life that's going to work. And I find that like in the way of Jesus. I love Andy Stanley says that following Jesus doesn't just make your life better, it makes you better at life. And I think there is a reality of both of those, right? That if you live your life in this way of the kingdom of God, in the here and now, that life is better and you're better at it. But also, bad things happen to good people all the time.
That's what I was going to say, but life still happens.
Life happens and it hurts. And no one gets out of here alive, and nobody gets out of here without, feeling and tasting the sting of death and depression and anxiety and addiction from people that you're close to. So it's just not cut clean. Like if you do this, then everything's going to happen for you. We were just joking earlier in a staff meeting of a young kid in our church who was getting baptized, and he's excited to get baptized. And he said he wants to follow Jesus. He wants to tell people about it. But he also, just like all of us, gets a little confused because he said, also, I want to make the all-star team. and we were laughing about it, but we all kind of sometimes throw that kind of good fortune into the conversation as well. But
if it works out for you, to make that happen for me, that'd be great.
That'd be really great. God, I see what you do for others, and I want you to do it for me as well, right? But it's just less complicated than that. And I am so compelled by the idea of grace and the power of grace that the world's not run by karma. Because we don't get what we deserve, and that's good. And like grace disrupts this system sometimes to where it's hard for us when we know there are people that have hurt us or hurt the ones we love that experience it, but gosh, do we want it? We want a break. We want grace from these situations. So I don't follow Jesus just for the positive practical outcomes, but I do believe that when we follow Jesus, on the whole, we'll be better at life, and we'll actually be more equipped to handle those moments in life when bad things do happen. But man, I'm in the grace camp versus karma, and I'm really grateful for it. And it confounds me and compels me at the same time. And I want to be a part of that conversation.
And sometimes you have, consequences to your actions. So sometimes you make bad choices and then bad things happen, and that is just a result of that. So like, I don't think that's karma. I think you didn't plan, you didn't, whatever it is. And so now this other thing is also happening. So I'm same as Joel. Like, I don't think God is in charge of this karma that, people want to throw around. But I think your consequences have actions, or your actions have consequences, or, because you're living right and trying to walk in the way of Jesus, then sometimes good things actually do happen.
It leads to flourishing.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Last night I was helping lead a Bible study, and we were looking at the prophets of the Old Testament, which is the biggest ink of our whole Bible in one section, but it's the most ignored part of our Bibles as well, because it's confusing and it sounds violent and it sounds full of judgment and wrath and all this kind of stuff. So we don't know what to do with it. It was interesting in the teaching that we were going through. We saw often that God was in challenging them to repent because he didn't want them to suffer the consequences of their actions. And so repentance wasn't a finger wagging of guilt, but it was like, turn around. Yeah. I love you so much. This is going to lead
There's a better way. Yeah.
This is going to lead you to where you don't want to go and you don't see it. And this prophet was saying, like, there's better for you. Yeah. So choose where you're not going to pay for it and choose to return to the way of God. And I think, like Allison was saying, like, there are just things that happen in the result of us not choosing Jesus. And I don't think that's karma. I think that's just the way that God made the world, and God wants better for us. And that's his desire for us. But yeah, Taylor Swift, Karma, it's a great hook, great song.
Karma's a cat. So I don't know what the problem is.
What's the problem with that, right? But even like, just to like joke about that just for a moment, like, it's a great track on the second to last Taylor Swift album. But what's interesting in the song, that she's describing, like, she has nothing to worry about. You even see the pride on her side of it. Like, karma's coming for you, but I have nothing to worry about on my side of the street, right? Yeah. And I think that's sometimes what we do, and that's what in this report, in this study, this is what people did. Yeah. The universe is on my side because I'm clean, but it's coming for you. And I think anything that feeds that pride and self-righteousness, it's probably not ultimately good for us, and it's not going to lead us to flourishing at the same time. And I think karma thinking does that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we never think about our actions having karma. Yeah, we never say, "Oh, karma's coming for me because I made this mistake."
Yeah.
Nope.
No, we don't want any part of that business at all.
And I just, and again, like why I'm so compelled by this conversation is, oh man, thank God that karma's not calling the shots. Yeah. And thank God literally for grace and for this path and this way to walk in his kingdom here and now, because he's so much better than the cosmic scales of karma. It's so good. So I think it's a good reminder for us.
Mm-hmm. So our next topic, it's an independent article titled, "There's Now Fantasy Football for the Conclave. Here's how to play." This was written before the
Pope from Chicago, Pope Leo.
Or he's Midwest, so is it
Ope the Pope?
Ope the Pope.
Sorry, Leo. I know you're listening.
Yeah, we love you.
Your Majesty? I don't know what
While betting on the papal election is discouraged, thousands of Italians have found a different way to engage with the conclave. Fanta Papa, the online game inspired by fantasy sports leagues, blends the worlds of church and football. International gambling companies were offering odds on potential successors to Pope Francis. Fanta Papa provided an alternative for those seeking a pre-conclave gaming experience. Similar to fantasy football, players created a team of 11 papal candidates and win points if a team member was mentioned prominently in media within Italy and beyond. Extra points are allocated if one of your picks was elected.
Of course it
with
is.
Bonuses for correct guesses on other elements such as the name taken by the new pontiff. So what did you guys think about this? Allison was the one that told me about this.
We will do anything to gamble. That's like, what do we need? This is like an addiction.
Competition.
Like, I need to beat you in who's going to be the next leader of the Roman Catholic Church. So ridiculous. What else are we like wagering on?
Oh, I'm sure so many things.
$50 on who walks through the door next. Like,
okay, but here's the thing. There was no real money placed on this fantasy Pope
somebody
team.
Was somewhere.
Well, somebody probably was, but like so just full disclosure, you didn't win any money if you bet online. There was none of that kind of stuff going on. But I just think it's funny too, because like in this, their their front runners didn't actually win.
It was a surprise.
Like, Pope Leo was nowhere on the
he didn't have all the hype. He didn't have
any of the hype. Yeah,
it's a surprise.
And so I'm just like, oh, see, this is why you should save. I mean, there was no real money, but this is why you should save your money and not gamble, because look, all you people would have lost.
There's the message. Here we are. Gambling, you guys, it's not worth
it. Bad.
Yeah,
it's bad.
It's not worth it. And
I just thought it was so fun because, like Joel said, like we will literally create a competition or a game out of anything. Absolutely. Even the Pope. And I looked at the game and the graphics are terrible.
Oh, yeah, they're so bad.
We got to post it.
Yeah,
that's great.
They didn't even use the real humans' pictures. They're like,
it was
Why
made
would
in
you do
MS
that?
Paint.
Yeah.
It was so bad.
And there were so many people participating in this.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be well done. It doesn't have to be slick. No, people will make a game and gamble out for
Yes,
everything.
it was wild. But yeah, I thought it was so funny about like how you score points, because you talked about how if you correctly guess the cardinal who becomes the next pope, you get 1,000 points. If the correct cardinal is placed in any other slot, you get 500 points. But users who fail to put the next pope on their team can still score points. And I'm like, how? You didn't even have the... But anyways...
Somebody made these rules
they
and
did.
wrote them down.
I know.
That's amazing.
Because, if you... Like Abby mentioned, if they were mentioned in a major news outlet, you got points and all sorts. If you chose their new name that they would choose, you got points. Yep.
Yeah.
So, it's just wild. And I think also I was a little, like, drawn to this because we were just in Rome in March.
You just missed it.
Well, the Pope was really sick when we were there. And honestly, I just kept telling my husband, I'm like, I hope the Pope does not die while we're here, because literally the whole town will just be shut down. You're all these things you wanted to see over. But also at the same time, like being there when the white smoke went up from the Sistine Chapel, like what a life experience.
Yeah,
too.
that would have been exciting.
It was one of those where I'm like, oh buddy, please hold on.
Yeah.
So I'm a little invested in the conclave.
There's a new pope for over 1 billion Roman Catholics, and maybe some of you that are listening are Roman Catholic, but it's exciting time, and hope that there's a lot of good that comes from his leadership and through what we all get to do for the kingdom together.
Yeah,
I've just loved the interviews with his brother.
His
playing the
brother.
Wordle and Word with Friends every day. And I think I told Abby, like, I just kept thinking about he probably lost his Wordle streak with his brother during the conclave.
So
tragic.
Yeah.
That's what he's thinking right now. Yeah.
I'm sure it is.
Yeah.
But can you play Words with Friends with the Pope? Like, is that a thing?
I hope so. I might re-download it just to
They
find
are
out.
people. They are people.
Yeah.
That's weird.
That's weird. That's weird. They probably need something to blow off some steam, I imagine.
I would think.
Oh, gosh. So this next conversation is one suggested to us by a listener. She wanted to hear us talk about different word pronunciations. So first, how do you pronounce the thing that you draw with, like that you'll get in kindergarten? How do you pronounce that, Allison?
A crayon.
Crayon.
Okay, crayon.
What do you do?
Crayon?
Crayon.
Like
Crayon?
C-R-A-N.
What language are you speaking?
I'm not pronouncing all the letters.
That's almost as bad as somebody saying my crown.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Crown is the other one. Yeah.
Crayon.
Yeah.
No.
Yes. The more I say it, the more wrong it sounds.
I know.
Like. Crayon,
That's why I'm like,
crayon?
how do I say it? I have to actually like think in my head. Yeah.
Okay. Your mom's sister, what do you call her?
Aunt.
I go aunt.
Aunt.
Are you an aunt?
Yeah.
Aunt?
Are you aunt?
No, never.
Auntie?
Nope. Yep. The things that you get from Panera that you put cream cheese on.
A bagel. Just kidding. No, not a bagel.
Like, that's
No.
a lie. Yeah, bagel.
Bagel.
But also, having just been in Italy, it would have been bagel. And it's the
real?
same with like basil,
It's basil.
the leaf.
Yeah.
It's basil.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is mind blowing.
Yep.
But yeah, bagel for me.
Okay. The thing that you put letters in to send in the mail.
An envelope.
I say envelope too.
Envelope.
Okay.
But
I'm
envelope. I know
surprised.
there's controversy.
Yeah,
That's
envelope.
a hot take.
Yeah.
Envelope.
But also, it's not O-N-V-E-L-O-P-E.
Yeah.
Then it would be envelope.
Oh,
Yeah.
we are Hoosier. I love it.
I know we agree on so many things. This isn't as controversial between the three of us.
Yeah.
Okay. Tour. How do you pronounce that?
Tour.
Oh, this is going to ruin the whole tour.
Tour.
The world tour. Tour. I say tour.
Tour. Yeah.
Tour.
Tour?
I don't say
do
tour. No.
Yeah. Tour.
Nope.
The summer tour.
Yep.
Nope. Tour.
I feel like there's some words that I flip back and forth between, but
Yeah, probably.
no, that one.
I'm going on tour. No, it's tour.
Yeah.
I'm confident on that one.
Okay. The thing that you write with that has ink in it.
A pen?
Pen.
Pen.
Okay.
Wait, what is the other?
Some people say pin.
Whoa, that was close to me.
P-I-N, like pin.
Pin.
Yeah.
Pin.
And now,
That's
they're the
that
same.
throws me up.
P-E-N and P-I-N for me are the same.
Yeah,
pen
like
and
a
pen.
clothespin
Yeah.
and an
Pen
ink
and
pen.
pen.
Really?
Ink pen.
What's
ink
the-
pen, clothespin.
Okay, you got to...
Pin, pen.
I hear a difference. I don't think I make a difference.
Yeah,
though.
I don't make a difference at all.
Yeah.
But we have a coworker who says milk instead of milk.
Yeah.
Milk.
Like I feel like he just says that to make us mad. I hate it.
I hope so, because otherwise it hurts my heart on the inside.
Megan makes fun of me because I say, can we go see that movie in theaters?
Theater?
Okay. Theater.
No, I said it wrong. I actually said it correctly. I've been trained now. I would say theater.
Oh.
Yeah,
like you say
theater.
Like you say with your pinky up or something.
Theater.
That feels like when you're going to see like a Broadway.
Yeah, I'm going to see like I'm going to see Thunderbolts. That's it's not Broadway.
No, it's the
theater.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm wrong. Okay.
Okay. One last one. Allison, your favorite kind of pie? What do you?
Oh, pecan.
Pecan.
You don't say
pecan pie. I think I say it like that with that accent. Pecan.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Pecan.
I'm sure there's listeners that are disagreeing with us,
1
yelling
million
in their car, like, you guys are saying this wrong.
Well, it's all like our other coworker at lunch
can't
today.
Throw her under the bus.
Oh, we're about to. The bus is about to run over Brooke. She's been on this podcast before, so you guys know her. But she says yolk. Y-O-L-K.
Egg yolk. But she says yolk.
I'm not sure anyone else does that. I think she's the only one in the world.
We love you, Brooke.
If you say yolk, please let us know.
Yeah.
Like folk? Again.
Folk.
We got confused at lunch talking about this because
the L is almost silent for me. Folk.
But not if I'm talking about folk music.
Yeah.
The L loud, real loud. But if I'm talking about people, like those folks over there, no L.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Anyways, words are weird.
Yolk does not have an L.
But it does.
Our last topic today is a Premier Christianity article titled "Short-Term Mission Trips Have Become Controversial. Should Christians Leave Them Behind?" Short-term mission has come under heavy criticism in recent years, with concerns ranging from white saviorism to doubts over motivations and priorities. A common criticism is that the attendees or sending churches focus on what they get rather than the needs of the communities they visit. At worst, cynics say short-term missions are for tourists to feel good about themselves or virtue signal on social media. The article also highlights how short-term missions can take away from funding long-term missions, the harm when you have people working in ways they aren't properly trained, and the climate concerns with traveling. It seems most concerns about short-term missions can be addressed through a Christ-like attitude, training, reflection, prayer, humility, and listening carefully to local churches and long-term missionaries. So do you agree with some of the issues that they highlight in this? Or I've never been on a short-term mission trip, so I know you guys, have you, Allison? No, I know you have, Joel. Mm-hmm. So you want to talk about like your experience and how you think this article addresses any of those concerns?
Yeah. And I've gone on short-term missions trips, but I would think that there's an asterisk next to the version that I've gone on as well. Because I've not gone on like a short-term mission trip where there wasn't a actual relationship between a local church and the people on the ground in that community. So even though the trip was short-term, it was the relationship between the two organizations, a local church and the church on the ground or the nonprofit school that's on the ground. And so the short term being just the amount of days, yes, I think stereotypically, and what was very, very common in evangelicalism from the 80s to probably mid 2000, the aughts, if you will, was this idea of like, oh, we're going to China this summer, or we're going to Zambia there, and we're going to build this house, pop in, pop out. We're going to go down to Haiti because that's easy to get to in America, and then we're going to pop in, pop out, never see these people again, not really know what's going to happen with what we do and what we build and all that kind of stuff, and just sort of move on. And I think that is what this article has criticism for or asks questions about that I think are really valid. I mean, it is amazing how when you do serve somebody, it does feel good. But when people are searching after the feel good and then spending thousands of dollars coming into a community that you really don't know anything about, and you don't know the people that are on the ground, and thinking that you know better, and because you've got more money and you might have some know-how, and you don't have to go to work during the day, so you can build this thing for them because they've got to go provide for their families, but you're on a trip, a vacation, so where you can go do that. I've seen the negative impacts of that, and I think what it doesn't make long-lasting change in that community because we hop in and hop out. And what it does in us, from Westerners, oftentimes white people coming into predominantly indigenous communities, is that it creates pride in us and makes us feel like we're the ones that have all the answers, instead of looking at the answers that are available there and coming alongside of the leaders that God has actually planted there.
Yeah.
And so I think it feeds a lot of negative things. And even beyond that, just the idea of the social media pictures of you with somebody that makes you look like you're some kind of hero. It just, again, it feeds pride.
Yeah.
And ultimately, I mean, I've just read about the amounts of money that's been thrown into places like Haiti, in places in Central America and in like Mexico, where there's been billions of dollars from United States Christians coming into these areas. But ultimately, the areas are not transformed because it's a drop in and drop out, and not building infrastructure or leaders that are on the ground there.
Yeah.
And so I think it's a good time for leaders in evangelicalism to ask the question, like, okay, what difference has the play we've been running made? And are there more effective plays that can be run so that we can use what we have in our community to come alongside people in their communities and what they have, to just partner with them instead of coming in, save the day. We build a house for one mom and her kids, and then we feel really great about it. We leave, and we don't realize what's going on in the
hundreds of others.
Hundreds of others, or even like, how did you help that mom afford what's needed in that house, right? You know, or like help her find a job or a trade. Like, there's just like a lot of things that look really good. Like, we built this little house, but like then we leave and we're like, oh, she has no transportation to work, or she doesn't know how to. She doesn't have the tools or the resources or the connections to provide for herself after you leave.
Yeah, and I think there's just a lot, kind of like you mentioned with the pictures, you know, questions that you kind of have to ask yourself before you go on a trip similar to that. Like, would you take this trip if you couldn't document it and post it on social media? You know, is this trip actually going to create a lasting change or impact on the area where we're going? Because if the answers are yes to both those things, then there's probably some value, right? But if the answer is no, then you kind of have to reevaluate what's going on, because like you mentioned with the long-term relationships and partnerships, like, yeah, you might be flying in for this week to do something, but is there, like, how do we support you before we get there? How do we support you after we're not there physically, you know? You know, so I think there's just a lot of questions that you have to ask yourself before you decide to go on a trip or plan a trip like this, because, you know, they can be beneficial, you know, if there's if you're building something that then other people, you know, local people on the ground are going to be able to support and maintain, that's great, right? But like flying in, flying out, it just doesn't have that same impact that I think you'd hope that it does. And I think it, again, this is just me personally, but the tension, or like the thing that doesn't feel good in my soul sometimes, is it feels like I'm just showing off this like financial imbalance that we have between the two of us, or this power imbalance. And that it just doesn't sit right. It doesn't sit right.
In college, I had a close friend that she grew up in the Dominican Republic, and she said that they did not like when you know, those short-term mission trips would come through, because she's like, they just made us feel like less, because they wanted to take pictures with us and make themselves look better. And her and her friends, they hated it. Like, she
that's so sad. That's so sad to hear. Like, like people are coming in all gung-ho thinking this is awesome, and then the people that are actually living there are like, ugh. It's like waiters and waitresses on Sundays when Christians go to church. When they should be like, oh, my brothers and sisters, we can come alongside of them, and they can help us, we can help them, and you know, we can do this together in that way. So I love what Allison was saying, just like asking questions. I think it's really great that we're slowing down and asking about what are the effects, what are the fruits, what is it producing in us and in these communities that God loves, and that we do have resources in the West to help transform. So like, how are we doing it? And I just want to mention too, like, you know, we kind of, it might sound like we beat up on missions in this conversation, but like, there are people that are asking these questions and that are doing a new thing. And there's a lot of people I know that are millennials that have started organizations or leading organizations that are doing it differently. My friend Curtis Stout, who leads 117 International, which is a nonprofit that starts schools for children that are left behind and a Christ-centered education for them in Haiti and Cambodia. I mean, it's just amazing. We were meeting with him a couple weeks ago, and he was talking about the local staff that these schools have now. Yeah, I mean, it's awesome. Like people like 60 to 80 different families that this is their livelihood because we train them, and we have now there's like this other economic engine where people can give back to their communities, and it's not just some white people from Indiana coming in and doing something for them. And I love that there's been this turn of like more partnership language instead of just here's what we're doing in the mission in Africa or the mission here. And that's something that, you know, at our church that we're going to be growing in as well is just not just thinking about our local community, definitely thinking about our local community, but also thinking about the world that God loves too and how we can play a part in that. And through partnerships and not just dropping in for a selfie and putting together a wall.
Now, I will say, I think it is a little different, like these medical mission trips a lot of times, because you are dropping into, you know, areas that don't have medical interventions, you know, and so,
and you can just drop in and save lives right then and there.
And then, you know, pop out, whether it's vaccinations or whatever it might be. But those kinds of things, I think, super well intentioned and super helpful. But the other ones, I would say, need to do a little evaluating, a little self-reflection, maybe. But
if there's already good things happening in these areas that you can support, that might be a better than trying to make a solution yourself.
That's and that humility to be like, what's God already doing, instead of us having to reinvent the wheel and think that we have all the right answers.
Or can I send you resources and money, and you know what I mean, instead of do you even need me to show up? Is this something that, you know, local Native people can do on their own if they had more resources?
Right. Well, that's it for this episode of Atypical Talk. If you have any topics or questions, you can email those to atypicaltalkpod@gmail.com. You can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at atypicaltalkpod. Make sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform to get updates when new episodes go live. We hope that these conversations today have helped you think wider, love deeper, and partner with God to bring the up there, down here in your everyday life. Thanks for listening.